Welcome, welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to this interesting, I hope, show today. If you're watching live, that's wonderful. I'm glad you guys came in and be able to give me a little support here visually. We're going to talk about the RA-4 reversal, color reversal direct positive process today. And for those of you that don't know what it is, I think you'll find it interesting. And those that you do, I'll do a little, won't really be technical. We'll get into a little bit of it, but see what you find out here if you like it or not. And there's Michael. Good morning, Michael. Good to see you. Maybe I'll just wait a minute or two to see if anybody else comes in. I thought it was really interesting last week with Stephen. Hope you guys got something from that. It was an interesting approach that he had to, and his background and his history and all that surrealism and everything. So good stuff, good stuff. I'm going to open this up here and we're going to roll on through. Boom. Share view. So, yes, the creative mind and mortality, artists and anxiety. So this is Saturday, October 19th. And looking at the RA-4 color reversal process, I still love this quote by Chagall here. This color is all, when color is right, form is right, color is everything. Color is vibration, like music, everything is vibration. I thought that was interesting. Hello, Stephen. Good morning. Good to see you. I was just talking about you or about your show last week. It was good. So let's jump right into this. We're just going to jump right in here. The first thing I wanted to run by, I don't like to go super cold on these things. If you guys don't know who Robert Henry was, he's the guy that started the Ashan School. If you know what that is, if you're familiar with that history. It's a great book, 1923. It's timeless. But he says, when the artist is alive in any person, whatever his kind of work may be, he becomes an inventive, searching, daring, self-expressive creature. He becomes interesting to other people. He disturbs, upsets, enlightens, and opens ways for better understanding. Where those who are not artists are trying to close the book, he opens it and shows there are still more pages possible. I love that. It's a great quote from him. And not sure if you are familiar with this or not, but the Art Spirit, the book, is a guidebook for artists and a philosophical manifesto on the role of creativity in life. Its timeless advice continues to inspire artists to find their own path and view art as a means of personal and emotional expression. He was part of the Ashan School or art movement. Do you know the photograph that was considered Ashan? The hint is 1907, and it was a photogravure. Anybody know what that is? No? That was, let me see if I can pull it up. That was, you'll know the photographer, obviously. That was Alfred Stieglitz, The Steerage. And if you're not familiar with it, it's that image of all the people on the boat with the kind of the chaos of it all. And that's what the Ashan movement was kind of this look at modern kind of craziness going on. But check his book out. You can get it. It's a really great read, and it's still applicable today, I think. So before I go into this RA-4 stuff, because I'm going to show you my stuff, I just want to reiterate a couple of things here. This is from the work I'm doing and will continue to do. It's called In the Shadow of Sun Mountain, The Psychology of Othering and the Origins of Evil. If you haven't been to my website, you can go look at some of the stuff up there and read more about this. But the photographs and paintings I've made are about the extermination and removal of the Tabawatch Ute, the Native American tribe that lived and thrived in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. They were massacred or removed from the land as the European settlers and U.S. Army moved west in the middle of the 19th and early 20th centuries. Manifest destiny was what they used to justify their atrocities. Psychological othering and justification of violence. Manifest destiny involves othering, labeling the Tabawatch as inferior, uncivilized, and an obstacle to progress, right? That's kind of their underpinnings of this. The psychological othering is central to Ernest Becker's theories in terror management, where the denial of death is often manifested through the dehumanization and extermination of others. Both the settler and the military mindset, driven by fear of the unknown, including fear of death, translated into mass violence and cultural genocide. I lived on their land for 4 years in the mountains up there. They spent every summer hunting and fishing where I lived. I photographed and painted a lot of their ceremonial, spiritual, and medicinal plants, as well as their sacred red rock formations and landscapes. I introduced the RA-4 color process for reasons I'll explain later in this discussion. My work explores these ideas through the use of fragility, decay, and permanence and finitude. Every plant you'll see in this lecture is dead and gone forever, and the landscapes are continually changing. I thought of Roland Barthes' philosophy about photography all throughout making this work. He argues that every photograph is kind of a memento mori, remember you're going to die, because it captures a moment that has already passed. In viewing a photograph, we are confronted with the temporal nature of existence. The subject in the photo is frozen in time, but time has moved on. He saw photography as a medium uniquely capable of invoking the tension between life and death. So that's a preamble to this, okay? So we're going to talk about the RA-4 color reversal process and why I decided to use it and probably will continue to use it, I'll see. But what is it? The RA-4 reversal direct color positive process utilizes color printing paper in the camera to make direct positive images. Think of it as the color ambrotype or tintype process. So you put a piece of photographic paper, normally you'd have under an enlarger with a color negative, and that's what you get your little prints back from the shop or whatever. I guess people don't do that anymore, I don't know. But that's where the paper comes from. The paper is exposed in the camera and then processed in a black and white print developer, i.e. Dectal. After it's developed, it's placed in a stop bath and then washed in a clean water bath. The black and white developer forms the negative image. The print is now exposed to UV light for a few seconds, flashing or fogging. The print is placed in the RA-4 developer and processed for a certain amount of time, depending on temperature. I found that the warmer chemistry gives better color and a richer texture to the print. The print is placed into the Blix, the bleach and fix, and then washed. This paper is not designed to do this, so you're going to see some examples of how funky stuff can get. You can get radical color shifts, aberrations, and intriguing effects if you work with it enough. Some of you have seen this. I'm going to show this little video here. This is me processing one of the one of the still lifes that I did here. So I had a request to show some of this behind the scenes stuff on this RA-4 I'm doing. So this is a color direct positive made right in the camera. It's 10 inches by 10 inches or about 25 centimeters square. I'm going to show you the development process here. It's kind of cool. Like, everybody wants to see this stuff, how it works, what it does. Depending on the temperature, I'll go 1.5 to 3 minutes on this, just depends. And this is my latest one for today. You'll see this posted later if you pay attention to my blog. I'll talk a little bit about this plant. And that is looking outstandingly beautiful. Obviously, the color is popping there. And since I live in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, I got some representative granite and some other material there for rocks at the base of that. So there it is. I just wanted to share that with you. Next, it'll go into the Blix here and then a wash. And that's how I do my color direct positive prints.
So Quinn, is that directly that paper you took out that says not light sensitive anymore?
After the black and white development and the stop bath, it is light sensitive, right? There is some, because I expose it to bright light for 30 seconds or whatever, shadow light. So it is sensitive and you fog it. And then the RA-4 development develops out the color portion of it. So the black and white negatives established still somewhat sensitive, and then the RA-4 developer develops out the color. Yeah, so they're really super, super beautiful. This happens to be called grandmother's hair and Rocky Mountain stones. They're little pieces of granite down below there. I just tell little stories about how the plant was used, the history of it, things like that. I'm not going to go into all that. You can pause it later if you want to read any of that. But the point here is obtaining those rich colors and some of the really interesting artifacts that you can get with this stuff can be really, really fascinating, actually. So why did you include it in your project, or why did you include it? People have asked me that before. And the reasons, you know, there's several reasons I chose to include this in my current project. The biggest one was the red and yellow problem with collodion, right? One of the biggest reasons I chose to work with not only color, but this specific process is that collodion cannot see the colors red and yellow. It's black. So you see the sensitivity, the nanometers there. After about 550 so nanometers, right in the green, going into the yellow, you start going black. Everything goes black. So red and yellow were completely out. And so there were so many of these plants that I wanted to photograph that were red and yellow. So that's what I call the red and yellow collodion problem. And a lot of people don't understand that. There's a sunflower that I photographed that's obviously yellow and just didn't, well, I guess it depends on how you see it, if it worked or not. But for me, that it's interesting in a way, but it didn't work. So I came up with a method of illuminating that yellow, and this is what it turned out to look like, kind of a steel looking color. But you can see the RA-4 on the left, that bright popping yellow, and that beautiful wheatgrass and barley foxtail color, just really gorgeous. So that's the biggest reason I kind of chose to overcome this. And I felt like I wanted, you know, the beauty of that land and those plants were so in your face. I didn't want to miss out on not having that. And I still photographed them a lot in collodion. You'll see this, but so what is it? What's the gist of it technically? The gist is the filter pack, paper, and chemistry. So the biggest variable in the process is the filter pack. And I can't really tell you what will work for you depending on where you're at and, you know, the optics and all kinds of stuff, the light you're using, all kinds of stuff. But I build a filter pack and I change it around. I happen to use on these a UV, a full CTO, that's a color temperature orange, a 50 magenta, and a 30 yellow to balance out that tungsten paper in the particular light I was making photographs in. The paper is the Fuji color, Crystal Archive is what I like to use. You can read about it there. And I like to use the luster finish. I don't like the glossy. I like the luster. It's kind of in between glossy and matte. And the chemistry I've used mostly is the Arista RA-4. And now I've got a set of Bellini here I brought down with me from Colorado. I'll start in on this again once my darkroom is up and functioning. I have a bunch of prints to develop from the mountain. And the black and white developer is Dectol and Stop Bath. It's pretty straightforward stuff. It's pretty simple to do. You need to do it in complete darkness, the black and white, right? Or if you have a, you know, if you have a print processor that you can keep dark, whatever. There's a lot of ways to do that, I guess. I just blacked out my darkroom and used 3 trays: the Dectol developer, the wash, and then a stop bath, and then another wash before I put it into the RA-4 developer. So here's some examples of my work using the reversal process. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on these. The first one, I just wanted to show you an example of a Palladiottype on the left and an RA-4 color print on the right of the same thing. I call it Riverwood Stump. And you can see the radical difference, the radical shift in colors. And, you know, it can do some funky stuff. And the more you work with it, the more you'll learn about it, and the more you can apply that kind of stuff.
So no safe light, Quinn?
No safe light, complete darkness to do the black and white. So when it comes out of your plate holder, it's completely dark, and it goes right into the Dectal developer, black and white developer. You can turn the lights on after you've stopped. Yeah, after it's in the stop bath, you can turn the white lights on and you're okay. But yeah, working in complete darkness, or if you want to rig something up, or if you have like a Patterson orbital processor or Jobos or whatever, you know, there's all kinds of stuff out there you can use for that kind of stuff. I just never did because I was able to set up to go blackout, and I got my little rhythm going. It's 3 minutes to develop it, and another, I don't know, minute for, you know, wash, and then a stop bath. So it's only a few minutes in the dark each time. And sometimes I could do multiple prints, you know. A little risky. I'll show you some examples of what happens if you get too carried away. These are some really, to me, magnificent kind of images for me to look at. This bursting, this, you know, and keep in mind that I'm using all 19th century optics here. And I'm using natural light. There's no strobes. There's nothing like that. And so I'm using the very same 19th century kind of optics and techniques, light, that kind of stuff. But I'm using this this paper as a direct positive process, and produces some really beautiful stuff. And the color is going to depend on your exposure and filter pack. Sorry?
I said that is beautiful. It's like
thank you.
It is lovely.
Yeah, thank you. I started doing these images. I went on this big bend about after I read this book called Denial, about how Varkey is one of the authors. Bauer and Varkey wrote the book, and they talk about this explosion of consciousness. And Robert Ligotti talks about, you know, in a more negative, pessimistic way about this explosion of consciousness. So I started visually playing with that. Collodion will do this, but not quite as dramatic. And the way I can light these things and that kind of stuff. Here's another little example of kind of explosion fireworks of consciousness. Those were the ideas behind those. Here's the cactus people. Look at how that's blue grama grass in the back, kind of faded out. This is a piece of European silver I picked up in Sweden. It's pure silver. You can read about silver and the meaning of that. And then I got a piece of Rocky Mountain white granite in there that was all around me. And then I've got the cacti that grew up there. And I call this cactus people because they look like two little heads talking to each other. But one is really red, and you wouldn't see this in real life. And the other one is green, which it should be. But this transition to magenta, purple, and green, it plays, and the filter pack will bring these little subtle things out. And it's really, can be really fascinating. It's amazing to see what happens. Okay, and I told you I was just playing with the explosion of consciousness. Well, this is really what I started doing. I started overexposing these prints. And when you overexpose, you just blow everything. This is sitting on all these images are sitting on a black tablecloth. And you're going to see this black cloth, not tablecloth. They're on a table with a black cloth over it. And you're going to see how that black translates into red. And that's why I get this orange red. It kind of turns orange in the back where it's overexposed. But again, this idea of consciousness. And again, without doing the same kinds of effect, these are dead daisies. Again, this neural network, that's kind of what I'm playing with there. I'd find turkey feathers, I'd find pheasant feathers, I'd find all kinds of animal, ravens and crow feathers. And this thistle on the left here, the turkey feathers and the silver and the thistle played a big role when you look at European colonizers, they actually brought this thistle is an invasive species. They brought it over here out into the West. And so I used thistle a lot in this work. You probably saw it in some of my chemical picture stuff. On the right is mullein plant. You smoke this stuff for your lungs and make tea out of it, very medicinal stuff, and budding cacti in this kind of dramatic kind of vase that I set them up in. I started doing a little abstract painting of these too as well. This Mariposa photographed very well. One of the difficult things you're going to find with this process, you can see the 25 centimeters now, the 10 inches square. One of the things you're going to find very difficult to do sometimes, depending, is render white, getting whites, and sometimes getting blues and having them separated, and yellow. So think back on your color theory and think of opposites, and it's a little bit of a struggle sometimes to work with this. There's that black. So some of these I've shown matted. So this is an 8 by 10 inch mat over a 10 inch square image. So some of these I'm going to show you matted. Some of them I'm going to be holding and photograph. These are all just iPhone photographs clips. This is a cacti and morning glory and the Rocky Mountain wheat. Most of them's dead. Sometimes I'd photograph them when they're alive, let them die, and then photograph them when they're dead. You'll see that as we go through here. Deer antlers. This little pot is made by El Posey, is a Ute Indian. It's a really beautiful pot. He's got all of the Ute symbols around it, so that's why I use that a lot. These antlers I found on the property, and this is just a kickback. You know, you've heard me tell the story about Zappa and the giant elk, where the antlers grew so large it weighed him down and it killed him. It made him go extinct. And he was using that as the example of our consciousness and our awareness of our death. So I use that quite a bit. These big, beautiful red rock formations all around the land. This is kind of tricky to do outdoors with the white clouds and the blue sky, and then capturing this red, technically speaking. And I love this window. I put a shorter lens on and make these images like this for a reason, to vignette the tops. Here's an example of using an old optic that I have called a Desrosiers lens, a French lens, wide open, f2.8 or so, shot it wide open and made this, this image of this blossoming ponderosa pine cone. That's what that is, and it turned red. Just some of these things are just really outstanding and beautiful. Back here, that red mark is a failure of the chemistry. You're going to start seeing some of these where my chemistry is becoming exhausted, and I use it as an effect. There's that same image that I showed in the red and yellow collodion problem. The wheat or the foxtail barley and the sunflower rendered beautifully. If you could see these in your hand, they're just amazing. Blue grama grass sitting in Posey's pot. This is dead yarrow. This is, man, when I made this photograph, same thing. I photographed it with that old Desrosiers lens, wide open, this radically soft depth of field. The first thing that came to my mind was that nuclear mushroom cloud, right? Just, ooh, it's just so dramatically visual to me. I just absolutely loved it. And again, I'd orchestrate, you know, here's the number 5 for the flowers and the needles. And here you see that magenta streak on the left? There it is. There's that chemistry starting to fail. So I'm going to start trying to use this to paint with a little bit, to paint in these ideas that I have about, you know, what I'm trying to do here. And this is just me holding that 10-inch square, just so you can see that's what it is when it comes out of the bath. Another radical kind of outdoor, found a dead snake on a rock, and just this radical color shifting, and the filter pack that I'm using. When Stephen last week talked about surrealism, there's a lot of these images that I feel fall toward that kind of category of surrealism for different reasons. Mostly, excuse me, let me get a drink. Mostly for the color shifts. Because that snake and those rocks in that background did not look like that, but I'm exploiting the chemistry here. Here's just a couple of examples of 8x10 framing, and then the full 10-inch, 10-inch. That's cat's eye and turkey feathers, and you'll probably see that later. So 5-point star on a plant this is off a zucchini, wild zucchini. I love this little punctum dot back here. This kind of eye, it's just kind of a weird thing happening here. And I love how the color rendered the flower as the black top too, just this matching, and this feels like somebody going on stage. It feels it's something. I don't know what it is, but it's something there that I felt comfortable with. This is a 10-inch opening, by the way, 12 by 12 mat board on 10-inch opening. Same here. This is a human grave that I found in the mountains. It said it was 1870 something or another. And I just wanted to see, and the color rendering on this was so strange too. The antlers over it, there was kind of a ritualistic thing going on. And so I thought, yeah, I'm going to photograph it. And it looks like it's look at the very top in the background. It's like an old autochrome or an old painting. You know, just this stuff is just amazing when you get playing with it a lot. I just absolutely love it.
Did you do that, Quinn? Did you put the antlers and stuff?
No, that's I wouldn't touch a human grave. No.
So the antlers were there, and those seed pods and all were there?
Yes, I didn't touch it. I just made a photograph of it and left. Yeah, it was.
That's interesting because you said it was 1870, but that looked recent.
Yeah. Within the last several years, I would imagine, or something. Yeah, somebody had been a relative. I don't know. No name, no nothing, but it had this headstone thing. Yeah, it was. I thought it was interesting. Hello, Wendy. Thank you. Yeah, loving these. The intense color. Yeah, and the bloodiness feels like the history of the landscape. Yeah. Oh, great comment. Thank you. This is just my little setup back on the top left here. You can see this is where I photographed my big opening. North Light opening is back there. And then I just lay prints out to dry. I do 3, 6, 9 prints a day. My feathers and the goat's head and some of the optics, you know, just my working area kind of thing. Some of my optics. Probably seen this one before. Skull and antlers. This is a black hat. I was doing this kind of looking for more of a commercial kind of bent for, I wanted to, I don't know. It turned, I liked it. It because of the color. I really enjoyed it. You've seen that before. That's my self-portrait, 10-inch by 10-inch, holding the foxtail barley or wheatgrass again, rendering those colors. Another version of that, those antlers. I just absolutely love that image. And here's some wheatgrass and stone and the little tiny berries down below. Those are those chokecherry berries that grow way up high. Bears love to eat them. And they're very subtle in the image. If you were holding the print, you'd see them very well. But I just loved the simplicity and the elegance of this and the way, you know, it just felt good. It felt right. Big frame, 10-inch square frame. Here's the dead sunflower. That sunflower you saw earlier in the silver. There it is dead with dead foxtail barley. It sprouts out and gets wide again. Just for me, just a very fascinating visual to work with. Goat's head in silver. Goat's beard, sorry, goat's beard. I keep saying goat's beard and silver. I let them die. And then sometimes I'd press them down. I got some really interesting contact prints from these things too. Cat's eye in silver. And again, every single one of these plants were either medicinal, ceremonial, or spiritual to the Tabawatch Ute on their land. Okay, here, now you really see this magenta streak. This is the chemistry failing, right? So I'm going to start trying to use it. And that mulline is starting to look like banana peels. All this stuff is starting to happen chemically. So I thought, hey, I'm going to use that. And here is a Rocky Mountain raspberry flower with that flawed chemistry behind it. I just happened to luck out just barely on the rims of a couple of leaves, and everything else, a couple of petals, sorry, everything else brings on this dramatic kind of magenta background. I just love this kind of drama in these, how it dramatizes everything.
They're breathtaking, Quinn.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
They're just, I'm kind of blown away by them. They're beautiful. And I'm not, I'm not really a color person, and I'm going like, oh.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Normally, regular quote color photographs.
Yeah,
I'm not really a fan either. Obviously, I've worked in these other processes for so many years, but this is so different.
Usually, like it's just interesting to me too, because they're medicinal herbs, but they're also like a little like hallucinogenic. They draw you in. They're really cool.
That's awesome. Great. I appreciate that. Yes, and I actually have. Keep in mind, guys, I did over 200 of these prints, so I'm only showing you a few of them. I have a white poppy, by the way, that is an opiate plant, and I photographed it moving, and it's really, I should have included it, but I didn't, because anyway. Now here's something interesting. This is chemistry and exposure and a little bit of a filter pack adjustment. And I tried to go for these old autochrome looks, and look at how these old, like old luminaire, like 1920s old kind of auto, this old color that was flat, and they used starch and dyes and stuff. And these things just started looking amazing. I mean, and just a little bit of adjustment, and it goes from this to that. And that's the beauty of it. You can shift these things around and make about anything you want happen. Again, Palladiotype on the left, RA-4 color on the right, just an arrangement of these antlers again. I became fascinated with these things, mostly because of Zaffa's story about the Irish elk. I even took it out. The Utes were some of the best horse people in this country. The Spanish brought the horses over. They didn't have horses here. And the Utes called the horses magic dogs. And that's what I started photographing, magic dogs. And I love them. And they were incredible horsemen and horsewomen. Okay, that's it. Questions, comments, anything?
I have the color is just spectacular. I mean, I've been following your blog obviously from before. I'm just wondering though, with the color, using color paper, because color paper is not really archival, isn't it?
That is a great point. And I thought I didn't think it would be you, but I thought somebody might bring that up. You're so right. Color paper is not archival. It's so true. Now, what do you mean? You have to define archival, right? But what we're talking about is something that will last kind of beyond what is imaginable, hundreds of years maybe, right? You're right about this. So if you go to the MoMA today, the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and talk to conservators there, they'll tell you that color prints from the 70s, C41 processes and C prints from the 70s are going away. 35 years ago, if anybody's ever heard of Browning Arms, it's a little deer head with the horns, they make clothes and all. Well, 35 years ago, I ran their photographic line. I ran black and white line, I ran C41 line, and I ran an E6 line. And I worked with a guy named Bob Casey. He did all the covers, 8x10, 11x14 covers. I processed Cibachrome prints as well. So I'd make Cibachrome prints. And all of those things are dead in the water, right? Those Cibachrome, right? And at the same time I was working for Browning Arms, running all their photographic lines, I was in an experimental classes in undergraduate school. So I started making these direct positives. And my stuff didn't last a year. It was so unstable. It just, it started going funky in a year. So you're right. They're not archival, Jeffrey. That's a very good point. And you know what? That's okay. I'm not archival either. So I'll go away. All my stuff will go away and no one will care, really, honestly. But we can have fun looking at it today. And if you enjoy it, that's great. But you're right. If you're concerned with that, probably it is not a platinum palladium print. It is not a, whatever other, wet collodion negative, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I don't know what you might want to say there, but that's a good point.
Because I have a box of Cibachrome paper that was, I don't know where.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do it actually.
The problem is you're going to have a really tough time with the chemistry. And some of that chemistry and the E6 stuff is awful. It's awful for the environment. It's awful for human beings. I'd have to gas the stuff and run a line in for gas. If you've ever done E6 or Cibachromes, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, that's okay. You can read about that some other time. But anything else? I guess I could have included. Yes, Boguslav, please.
Quinn, I have some question about effective speed. This paper, AJ Fuji crystal. How do you calculate it? How
very good question. Boguslav's asking about the ISO or the EI, the exposure index of the paper. Now, depending on where you are, what kind of light you have, what kind of light you're using, and it depends on what filter pack you're using and what optic you're using. So I rated mine at between like 18, ISO 18 and 20. I think their optimal is like between 10 and 12 ISO. Somewhere in there. It's just a big crapshoot. I basically I put a filter pack together. Let me grab my filter pack. I put a filter pack together. There I am. I put a filter pack together and started exposing paper and processing it. And that's how I kind of figured out my light. I will say this, most of my almost 200 prints that I've done here with this are made up there. Most of them are made at F5.6 or F8 because the paper to me is quite fast after working with wet collodion. So, a few of them you saw, I had that wide open lens and the exposures are like, really fast. Most of my exposures are 1, 2, maybe 3 seconds if I'm really stopped down on the optic, F8 or something. So I didn't worry too much about what the ISO was. I just wanted to know how much depth of field by distance from the subject, what I wanted to capture, what I didn't. Yeah, that's a great question. Michael Wellman, do you have the Cibachrome chemistry? I think he's asking Jeffrey that. No, he doesn't. Good, good. Look, if you want to make these direct positives, you can, this is not, wet collodion or calotypes or daguerreotypes or anything like that. This is straightforward. Buy this chemistry, buy the paper, set yourself up, and off you go. This is not most people struggle with it with the filter packs and the type of lights they're using. I haven't looked much, but somebody sent me a link to a YouTube guy. If I remember, he was in Ohio, a large format guy that kind of walks you through the process. His results weren't really great. I could probably tell you why, because of the color pack and the type of lights he was using. But I'm just kind of, I was just after overcoming that red and yellow problem in collodion because so many of the plants were red and yellow. And I just felt like I was, shortchanging this beautiful plant that's alive and gorgeous. And I wanted to show that color. I just felt like it wasn't doing it justice. And that's really what kind of spurred me on to painting and stuff like that too. There's a time and place that you come to, I think, 20 plus 22 year, 23 years of working in these processes, you know, these orthochromatic, these straight black and white, if you will, kind of prints. And then you get in this environment, you're trying to tell this story. And I didn't feel like I was representing them, really. That was my biggest burden. I didn't feel like I was giving these living plants their full due, and dead plants too, even after they died. Ah, there you go. That was Matt Marish. And yes, that's right. I reckon, yes. Yeah. Somebody sent me that link, and I just kind of buffered through it. I'm not really that interested in the technical side of stuff so much anymore. So I just kind of, you know, I just wanted to say, yeah, I saw what he did and whatever. You can watch it and see, or you can go Google this stuff. I will tell you, this is kind of like, you know, if you worked in the darkroom, you can do this. I mean, this is, you know, a young person, a child. You could teach a child to do this. So it's nothing complicated. The chemistry is safe. You know, I mean, it's fine. And I think I figured out my cost was about $1.50 per 10 by 10 piece. All fully developed, fully, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, $1.50 US, depending on what you're doing. For me, it was really good because it really opened up, and I really love showing like the Palladio type or a Cali type or some pot print, and then the color version. I think it's just gorgeous. A lot of this stuff will end up in my work, my publication, and any exhibitions.
So
yeah,
I'm really confused. Where does the filter go? Is the filter in front of the paper when you expose it?
So that's a great question. There's a couple of things you can do here. I came up with this I use this 6" by 6" filter. And so I made this little cardboard cutout that I have my filter pack in here. I have different ones, right? You can set them up for whatever you want. That camera right there, these go right inside the bellows and sit. The bellows collect right near the lens is kind of like right here, and this sits right behind the lens. So the light that comes through is filtered with this. Now, if you had two people, you could just hold it in front of the lens, pop the cap off, and do it. You know, it doesn't matter. However you want to do it,
so
as long as the light is filtered that's hitting the page.
Just like a filter, 35 millimeter, whatever. Okay, so
exactly.
So
and honestly, I think it's the 85A or 85B is a CTO. Basically, you can use you know, if you wanted to make little tiny print, you know, the screw on for your lens, you could put an 85A or B. I can't remember what the value was, and filter that. This paper has a blue cast on it, right? And you'll read some people wash this paper and they get a little more ISO or speed out of it or whatever. Oh my God, don't get into washing the paper if you do this. Just filter it. Learn how to filter and you'll be fine. You can compensate that blue cast with the orange, the CTOs. Yes, Boguslav, please.
Hello. Next question. Do you use the same filtration to all these pictures?
The same what?
The same filtration to all the pictures.
Yes. And great question. Because the light that I was using in my studio was the same light I did with the magic dogs or the horses or the human grave site. That was the same. Now this filter pack probably wouldn't work here. I'll find out pretty soon, but it probably wouldn't work here just because of the variation of the temperature of the light. So up there, way high, I'm really, you know, the Kelvin temperature is off the charts. So here, I just have to go through a little bit of manipulation and find out once I get my filter pack, pretty much if I just keep using that same light and the same type of optics or opening aperture, pretty much the same, yeah. And you can change color with exposure. You can change color with filtration. It's really fascinating stuff. Oh, Michael, sorry, I had this up here. Oh, Matt Morrish said he made it look like it was more work than I care to do, especially, yeah. It seemed a little bit like that for sure, yeah. I probably wouldn't be turned on by it if I watched that either. But you can make it simple. we tend to overcomplicate things. So, and I don't know anything about this guy, so this isn't the comment on this guy, but since we live in this crazy commodified world, everybody tries to turn whatever they're doing into a dollar or a peso or a franc, whatever you're using. And in order to do that, sometimes some of them make it more complicated or more complex than it is, just for whatever reasons. Chopper, good to see you. Very interesting, beautiful. Thank you. Maybe a silly question? Never. But would an expired paper be unusable? Oh, use expired paper for sure. Absolutely. I'd be all over it. I'd be all over it. I mean, look, I got to the point where I can render this stuff really close to whatever light situation. I got to the point where I understood how to expose for like those explosions or a particular red, or if I saw the chemistry starting to go off, if I want to do these autochrome looks, you know, you get to the point where you can really manipulate that. But it's fun. It's kind of like wet collodion. It's fun. Use expired paper and see what happens. I will put a caveat out there. Somebody wrote me about black and white reversal, right? Like you remember the old, what was it? Hardens or Hardmans or whatever. Yeah. That old reverse, black and white reversal. I don't care for that much. I really like the color stuff. I ran some of the black and white stuff. Didn't really care for it, just to see what it was, but I do like the color a lot. But yeah, yeah. Anything else? Get a drink of my coffee here. Boguslav.
Yeah, Quinn, I asked about filtration. I hope that will be difficult to explain because I use this technology only to pinhole photography. I don't know exactly because my pinhole is very small. I hope that not all waves is breaking through to the other side to make pictures.
Yes.
For me, it is crucial topics to find good filtration.
Yes.
Almost many time to find exactly a combination of filter. Sometimes it's very frustrated. If you have some possibility, if you want to, I can show you my two pictures from pinhole reversal process if you want. Yeah?
Yes.
I tried. Absolutely. I never do it my first time.
That'll be great. I'll email you, Boguslav.
I try to find.
Perfect. Yeah, good. Well, that's great. Yeah. And if you guys are working in this, or you know somebody and you want to share some stuff, I will. And I'm in New Mexico now, and I will continue to work in this to some degree. I think I'll find out. And that's kind of the closing thing here that unless there's some more questions or whatever, but I wanted to leave you with this. This is probably going to be my last show for a while. I need to kind of turn my wheels in and pull my gear up. I'm building my darkroom. I have a lot of projects going on. I'm going into this program, so I will be back. And secondly, what I want to say, I would encourage. I need isolation time too, right? I need some time just to be removed and to think and to process. So, and I encourage everyone here to kind of reflect and look inward and spend some time doing that with your practice. That's what I'm going to do, along with a bunch of physical labor stuff too. I'll be back. I promise I'll be back. And in the interim, what I was going to say, if you go on YouTube and my YouTube channel is not monetized. You won't get ads and all that crap. Nothing like that. If you sign up for the bell or the clicker to be reminded, I will post some static videos between now and the time I come back on these live shows. And I was going to do, I'll do one in the next week or so. I was going to read this little manifesto that I wrote about art history and things like that. So I'll come on and do these little 5 or 10-minute YouTube videos, and you can watch those or comment or email. I'm always available via email. So, but I just wanted to share that with you so you know. I think in some ways we've kind of ran the course in a way, and now I am really chomping at the bit to get back on my project. The last time I took this break up on the mountain, I ended up making 340 images, right? That's how deep, and a couple hundred of those were the color stuff, and then about 120, 130 wet collodion negatives and a bunch of prints, right? But it's good to move obstacles out of your way. It's not that I spend 40 hours a week putting, a few slides together, talking about something every week. But what it does is it allows me to kind of keep my mind in a groove. And that's where I want to go right now. I just want to get myself set up, and I'll be back. And hopefully what I'd encourage, if we could, if you guys want to, I'd encourage in the next several weeks or a month or two, whatever it is, make some work and come back in and share. Just like Boguslav, I would love to see his pinhole RA-4s. I would love to see, paintings or drawings from Bernadette or images from Jeffrey, anybody, right? I would just love to come in and have a chat about them. That would be great. So I just wanted to let you know, I just need to take some time, all positive, all good, nothing, I'm selfish. I want to navel gaze a little bit.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
Cool. I appreciate it.
Totally get it.
Yeah. And where I'm in a little bit of a, I love you guys. I do. I love coming in. I love talking with you. I love to see your faces and chatting about all this. But man, there's just a time that you need to say, hey, I want to make some work. And I really do. I have a lot. I've got my area cleared out now where I'm building my dark room. I'm really excited about it. It's just going to be simple. My plan, hopefully, if this works, I've got my router out there too, so I can plug in an Ethernet cable and go right to a camera. My plan is to set up a camera out there and shoot everything from there and talk to you guys from there and show you some stuff of mine, or you guys can show work, that kind of thing. I'd love to have it a little community rather than this week we're going to talk, just kind of open it up as community. I think we said that before, but Michael says, thank you for the series. Thank you. I really appreciate hearing that. I hope you guys, my wife always tells me, no, they're getting something out of it. Come on, they're getting something out of it. I said, well, I hope so. But, sometimes, you get spinning in your head and you say, oh God, what am I doing? There's been times where words just fail. You can't get some ideas across, right? You have to let people sit with them and think about them. And please, if you want to communicate, send me an email. I'd love to chat with you. I always have time. I get up very early in the morning, so I always have a few hours in the morning to look at my email and think about things and plan the day and everything. So send me emails. I love to, and I chat with you guys quite a bit. So, Boguslav?
Sorry. I couldn't open this file because I don't know exactly my iPad. I couldn't open this file. Sorry. Maybe I try to send you next time if you want to show.
Yes.
Because for me, Quinn is only some kind of fun with my friends. We organize some kind of performance because in effective speed in pinhole photography is very slow. In open sun we exposed a few minutes, maybe 10, over 10, sometimes a few hours. Sometimes we use old paper. We prepare some camera obscura in some rooms. We made like iron router, big pinholes. We made big pinholes, positive photography, 2 meters for one.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it's very fun play for me and my friends, reversal process.
We'd love to see some of them sometime, Boguslav. Email me.
I don't know how to English to express. I do it and put away. If when I receive red color, I receive reversal process. After 2 years, try again and again, and receive it. Just now I start to collotype maybe. Because I have no
I
patience.
think I don't know where Tim Layton is today. I thought he'd be in here. I don't know where he's at, but he started a callotype show. You could join in on that if you wanted to. So, but yeah, I would love to see and share and do all that stuff. Michael says it will take a while for this material to percolate, but it has been wonderful to hear meaningful talk around. Thank you. I agree. And I appreciate that tremendously, because sometimes you feel like you're yelling at clouds or screaming in a void, and I don't want to burden people with my preoccupations. I want to do work around those preoccupations and then allow people to see, and I probably just will just want to come in and if we can share work and do that, that'll be more productive. But please don't forget that I'm here and that I'd love to chat with you. This has nothing to do with anything other than I just need to focus on my stuff. And believe me, just like last time, I'll come out the other end with a bunch of work I hope's interesting to you. So anything else from anybody, or we call it c'est la vie? Well, thank you, Jeffrey. Yes, until next time. And you guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and we'll see you again sometime in the future. That is pure death denial, because I might be dead. We'll see you guys. Have a great weekend. Be happy, be strong, be safe. Bye-bye.